Yeah, it's mindset cafe, we all got that mindset. Gotta stay focused, never settle for less. It's all in your head, how you think you manifest. So get ready to rise, cause we about to be the best. Gotta switch it up, gotta break the old habits. Get your mind right, turn your dreams into habits. No negative vibes.
What is up, guys? Welcome to another episode of the Mindset Cafe podcast. It's your boy Devan, and on Fridays we got your boy Nick.
What's up, guys?
And so today we really wanted to dive into a mindset trap, right? And it's something that Nick and I like to call the Costco Syndrome. And what that really starts to dive into is the abundance of knowledge or the abundance of things you would get, like if you were to shop at Costco or Sam's Club or those, big stores that you can buy in bulk. But taking it into almost like an area of mindset where it's like there's so much information, there's so much, knowledge that's pushed at you, and you start to get overwhelmed, right? And so from there, this whole episode is really going to be about the bulk amount of knowledge and information that you're like, okay, I need to start doing this. And then all of a sudden you hear something else and I need to start doing that. And in reality, you just need to start doing something, right? There's so much information out there, and there's information overload, but an implementation underload. So we're going to really just dive into some of those things. Now, remember that this episode is a live Q&A, right? So please leave your questions and anything related to personal development, fitness, mindset, all that in the comments, and we will make sure to cover it as it comes. That's what this whole episode is about. So we want to make sure that you guys are getting your questions answered, whether it's about the Costco Syndrome or not. But diving into that until you guys start throwing them in the comments, let's dive into it a little bit, right? Nick, especially, let's I want to kind of put this over to you in terms of when you and I first started opening the gym, right? And I was trying to get you to read more and everything like that, right? And believe me, I mean, even when I first started, in that same spot with you, I wasn't reading as much or listening as much as I am now, and I know you weren't as well. But what was that initial feeling that you got, when all of a sudden you're trying to read all these things and learn these things and trying to jump to, be the entrepreneur that you are today versus, that feeling when you just started then?
Yeah. So, especially when it's like, with that example, like it was like such a lot of new things all at one time, and like trying to gather, as much information in every avenue when it came to like, books that you suggested, or I even looked up on my own. Again, with that, not kind of like that general initial understanding, like, okay, like this is the spot that I'm in now. So I need to learn this. I need to learn different skills, and like, you know what I mean? All at the same time. It was definitely overwhelming in a sense of, and it was a combination of like overwhelming feeling, like excitement, but also kind of anxiety, which is funny enough that that's what both our lives consist of at the moment, all the time. But, kind of like feeling like, oh man, there's so much, it's an overload of like trying to cover so many things all at one time, or at least gather as much information of every little thing, of every avenue, every, anything and everything that I could get my hands on. But it became like, at a certain point that I was like, damn, like I'm trying to do so much and read so much and learn so much all at the same time that I ended up either being frozen or not being able to retain or even apply anything or even comprehend anything that I was reading or learning along the way. Because then it was little bits and pieces of many different things going on at one time, instead of, obviously it's saying this now, looking back in hindsight, instead of concentrating on one thing and honing in on the specific books or the specific topics or specific skills that I actually needed to learn that would be the most beneficial to learn and take in at that moment, that given moment, so I can apply it and excel and, make the progress, make the steps forward. And that when it was time to, either look into new things or kind of gain a new skill or, kind of get insight on a certain different topic, is when to make that, maneuver or look into different books, which obviously I do now, which is appropriate. But in the very beginning, you know what I mean? That was like one of the most overwhelming things too, was just trying to take everything like at the same time.
Okay.
Pause.
I mean, I hope you're just referring to,
Talking about
the
books.
knowledge. But yeah, no, I mean, for example, like the Costco syndrome, right? It's that whole thing of you want to do something new, right? The reason we want to talk about this now too is we have New Year's coming up, right? And every episode that we've been doing up until right now is all tailored around everyone wanting to do New Year's resolutions. And so the biggest thing with that is New Year's hits, or even right now, you might buy 10 books, right, on how to be a better employee, a better leader, a better husband, a better wife, whatever the case is, right? 10 books on hitting your fitness goals, and you may read all 10, but have you been implementing the stuff from book 1 while you're reading book 2? Have you implemented the stuff from book 1 and 2 when you start reading number 3? And that's the thing, is like we start to get overwhelmed because you read all this knowledge and you're like, okay, I'm gonna start implementing it once I get all of the knowledge, when in reality you just got to start doing something now, right? Instead of waiting till you have all the answers. You're never going to have all the answers. There's always updates, there's always new things coming out, and it's just like majority of people, they sign up for a gym or sign up for 10 gyms, right? Let's say, especially in the New Year's, they want this aspect here and this aspect there, and then they end up making excuses not to go to any of them. So realize that there's almost like a false sense of security with more knowledge. I need more knowledge now, or if I get more knowledge, I'll be able to do this better, right? For example, if I start preparing for a marathon by just doing the research instead of getting out there and doing my first mile, right? It's like, yeah, you can have all the knowledge in the world, but if you're not implementing on any of it, then the knowledge is really useless, right? And I think that's the biggest thing is, we've had talks about it before, is like even with personal trainers, we'll have personal trainers come in and they could have a stacked resume, right? And it's like, okay, let me see these basic movements, or give them a question that kind of throws them for a loop. And it's like, yo, you have every certification under the sun, but yet you can't physically do half the exercises that you're talking about. So then what does it really matter, right? You're not implementing the stuff in your own life that your resume speaks of, right? So I think that's one of the things that people need to worry about, especially like, let's say New Year's, for those that want to become an entrepreneur or want to start a business, right? Overthinking and overstudying how to write your best business plan and not launching it is going to hinder you more than anything. Because I guarantee you, the business plan that you write isn't going to be the business plan that you end up using halfway through. Because once your doors open, most of it you're going to throw to the fucking fan, and you're like, I got to adapt.
Or you're going to forget about it, or, what I mean? And it's just going to like kind of get swept under the rug, or honestly, it's like kind of like hoarding in a sense. Like some people like to keep like material things, or, just like, oh, I'll use this in the future. Oh, this is nifty to have, or, this is very useful. But then it's like, how many times did you actually, or are you actually going to use that shit? Because like, it's probably just sitting in your garage, or, I mean, I'm not even going to lie. Like it used to happen to me all the time. And Nicole can vouch for it. We used to have a nightstand where I would keep like little notes and stuff of like little notes, or even things like that are just like things that I found that would be useful later on.
What are you talking about? You said write notes everywhere in the fucking gym. I thought you were pranking me half the time, because I was like, bro, what are all these pieces of paper? And you're like, and I would ask you for something, and you'd be like, oh yeah, I have a note. Where? And it's like in your pocket. I'm like, the hell does that do with me? Like,
so in the same sense, it's like just gathering all that stuff, but never actually utilizing it and putting it to use, or even using like to start. You know what I mean? Is like what hinders a lot of people, or if not everybody actually, to not only achieve their goal, but I think make like at least like the first step, the proper progress.
Yeah, no, and I think that you got to take it back to simplicity, right? You learn one thing, try to implement that, right? You learn a new, you watched a cooking show, you saw a recipe. Well, don't wait for the next episode to get the next recipe. Like, try that recipe, right? Kind of thing. you learned a new exercise to, implement on your leg day. Well, just try that one. Don't wait for the whole blueprint of an entire leg workout. Just try that one thing. And I think that's where people need to realize it's like, just start, just try it, because it may work, it may not work. And then you adapt from there. Right. Make sure you guys are leaving, anything related to fitness, mindset, anything like that in the college, this could be your college, but no, leave anything related to personal development in the comments. And we want to make sure that we go over those as well.
Strive University.
Yeah. Outside of the, topic, but we'll just keep rambling on and, staring at each other until you guys throw some stuff in the comments.
I don't mind.
I know you don't. But why do you think it is that we like to stockpile or like gain all this knowledge or think that we need to stockpile all this knowledge before trying to take a step forward?
So there's a term that I've heard that's pertaining to that. I'm kind of like debating in my head, is this like appropriate, or people are going to get like offended and stuff? Fuck it. I'm sure you've heard it before. It's called mental masturbation. Okay,
I did not think you're going that way with it, but okay.
Right, but I mean, I'm sure you've heard of it from like, okay, well.
No, so man, I have not.
Okay.
That is
so it's more
term.
Well, I've heard on like, other entrepreneurs like podcasts and stuff, but when I first heard it, it was.
What was their business?
Huh?
What was their
business? Actually Alex.
Oh. What website were you watching on?
No, it was Alex Ramosi. But like when I first like heard the term, it was and kind of explaining into a little bit more detail. It's like when we like try to stockpile information or do kind of prepare for certain things, or I guess what we think is putting in the action or putting in work towards actually making progress or doing the work that is required to get to the goal, which means including the fundamental steps, taking the first steps, the first actions, is you're prepping for that. Hence, kind of stockpiling on the knowledge, getting books, or even buying so many shoes or buying so many clothes to get into shape, when it's like you haven't even, those things and those actions aren't taking the action. They're not contributing to you putting in the initial work, the initial steps to actually build that momentum forward. It's just I think that's why most people kind of just stockpile in the beginning, prepping themselves, overloading on kind of getting ready to take that first step. But it's like you do so much getting ready and like loading yourself with so much stuff before you even put in the work. It's like, and I think that creates a form of satisfaction in our brain to make ourselves think like you're doing the work or it's part of the work, when in reality it ain't doing shit.
Yeah.
It's like you're prepping to take a step when the first step is to take the fucking first step.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, definitely. And Patty asked, if we have a list of books that we would recommend, and I was saying,
oh boy, do we.
Yeah, just let us know what area, that you're referring to, because otherwise it can be kind of vague on what books we reference. But we'll throw it in the Mindset Cafe community on Instagram and on Facebook. We'll throw that list in there and a few other lists as well, so you guys can use that as reference.
No, Patty, Dr. Seuss won't be in.
But just let us know like what topic you really want though too, so we make sure it's in there. But I think with like the stockpiling thing as well, it really goes into feeling safe, right? We want to feel safe. We want to feel like we tell ourselves we're in research mode, right? We'll tell ourselves that right now it's the study phase before I take action, but you're not giving yourself a deadline on when that ends, right? For example, Patty says, those are some really good books. Those are really some good books, good lessons, don't hate. Patty, what genre? Leadership, massaging. I'm saying that because she's a masseuse, right? But personal development, mindset, like what kind of books, right? But we feel safe because we tell ourselves we're right now we're in the research phase. We're trying to get the information, that so we can have we have a good plan and blah blah blah. But in reality, majority of your plan in any area is going to be learned in the process, and that's why we like to say trust the process, right? Because part of the process is not knowing what you don't know. Part of the process is realizing that your original plan, isn't your actual plan. The one you wrote out only has half the answers or half the guidance. And then normally that plan, it's like it may start you on the path, but then all of a sudden it takes a left turn, and then the rest of the plan doesn't even make sense anyways. So then you start building as you go, right? You start laying those bricks brick by brick as you go, right? You lay the next one right before you take the step. But I think it's also, we use it so that we can escape the fact that we're not taking action. Mm-hmm. So if that's the case, there is a research phase to anything, right? But make sure you have a deadline to when it ends and in action takes place, right?
I had a thought, and I want to see if
Oh, real quick, Patty's response to say those are really good books was to Dr. Seuss. She said, "Don't hate." Got it.
I got it. I mean, we could recommend those too, but to just, I guess, trying to get your input on this, if it's even if it's relatable or if it's kind of in the same thing. But when people say, I'm gonna start in a new year, or I'm gonna start working on my fitness goals, right? Giving themselves I guess that start time, like you said, that deadline.
Right.
They're stockpiling on something beforehand. What, in my head, I was is it maybe stockpiling the mental courage, the mental, or telling themselves okay, I'm going to start in the new year. I'm going to do these things, or I'm going to do these things, prepping myself to get started, or giving themselves the time to do what they want and enjoy the holidays, especially because just, using an example, because that's the time that we're in, stockpiling themselves with the leisure time now and getting it out of their system so that they're ready to start to take action in the beginning of the new year.
I mean, yeah, but also, when are you telling yourself this? Are you telling yourself this now when it's, halfway through December and you're like, okay, look, the holidays are around the corner. I'm gonna take these 2 weeks. I'm gonna start researching what I want to do. And so that way, January 1st, I'm gonna implement it. Right. Mm-hmm. I get it. Same thing, but that same goal or that same thing can't just be tied to January 1st. Could you tell yourself that same goal if it was March? Mm-hmm. And it was March 13th, right? And be okay, it's March 13th. There's 2 more months or two more weeks left. I'm going to implement this and start this the first of the month. And I'm going to try to do this thing for 30 days or for the entire month. And now you're setting a start date and an end date, right? And it's not just, hey, I'm going to start living healthier come January 1st. Okay, well then how are you going to live healthier? What's the plan? What does that mean? Right? So if you're starting to set some expectations for yourself, or you're starting to develop a system and you're giving yourself 2 weeks to essentially set the system, okay, that makes more sense. But if you already know what you need to do and you're waiting until January 1st just because, then it's okay, that's just an excuse. Yeah. Right? So why not start trying to drink a gallon of water a day now? Mm-hmm. You don't need to wait for January 1st to do everything, but you could be okay, one aspect of it, right? So I'm going to start working out. You can do that now. I'm going to start drinking water. Okay, I'm going to do that now. But then maybe I'm not going to have any cheat meals. Mm-hmm. Maybe that could be January 1st.
Okay.
Right? So it's you can start your goals now. And that's what we were talking about the last episode too, is you can start your goals now, because why wouldn't you want to start implementing it now to have a jump start for January, right? If you wanted to start saving money and let's say financially, that was going to be your goal for 2025 is I'm going to start a savings account and I'm going to contribute, $100 a month or $100 a week. Well, if that's what you're doing then, and the holidays are coming around now, why can't you open up a savings account and put $5 in now? Mm-hmm. Right? Why can't you do part of it? Maybe you have some reason you can't go all in, but that's okay. But can you go 70% in? Because now all of a sudden you've had, 2 weeks, 3 weeks leading up of 70%. That will be that much easier just to give that last 30%. Mm-hmm. Versus going from 0 to 100 on day one.
Mm-hmm. So it sounds like procrastination is a big, plays a big role when it comes to that. kind of waiting, and like, why wait to go all in, like putting it off instead of just like putting in like little bits of the work now. And I think, just to add to what we said earlier on, why, like, the mentality or the thought process as to why people want to feel comfortable, or like you said, they feel safe in that gathering knowledge phase, is because maybe fear too, like fear of getting started, or they think it's helping overcome the fear of actually having to put in the work.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's like you can have fear of putting in the work, or you can have fear of it, and that's okay. But you can also use that fear to fuel your fire,
Mm-hmm.
right? And you got to kind of just prioritize your actionable steps, right? You have to put some kind of structure behind it. If this is your research phase, that's fine. How long is it going to be? What is it consisting of? What are you looking for, right? That's what happened when we launched the franchise too, right? There was a research phase. We had to learn, right? Which was, going to our advisor and our mentor and stuff. And then from there, it was like, okay, then there was the build out of the internal stuff. And then me and you had set a time of I'm going to try to get this done by here. And then there's the launch date, which would be expected here. And it condensed a little bit earlier, right? But that's okay. If it would have condensed a little bit longer, that's fine. But at least we had an expectation for ourselves. So there wasn't like waiting until the last month or last week to all of a sudden start to try to do everything,
Mm-hmm. And I think kind of like with the whole Costco, this, not just side note, this doesn't mean don't get a Costco card, but it's like trying to get an overabundance of everything that you think you would need for every avenue, or being prepared for every fucking thing that hasn't even happened yet. I think a tactical tool that everybody should start to practice is, what do you need? What is your necessity right now at the moment to take those first steps and kind of get started? And then once you kind of can tailor that in, so that way it's like you said, like the plan never goes according to the plan, exactly to the plan, but you at least have to know what direction you want to head towards. Right. And once you can establish what direction you want to head towards, what do you need? I think that's, to me, that's what the big difference of, the kind of like the thought process for most people is, like they kind of like, oh, what do you want? And it's like they want an overload of information or an overload of preparation to do the work, rather than what do you just need to get the work, to do the fucking work, to get the first initial work done.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I think that whole want and need, like, is a big, differentiate. Plays a big difference factor as to actually seeing some progress and taking the first steps to, get to where you're trying to get to.
Yeah, no, it definitely does. And I think that people just need to realize that they call it the 80-20 rule, right? 80% of the results come from 20% of the knowledge, right? Or 20% of the things that you actually learn, right? So if you know that 20% of the things that you intake from, learning and reading or listening to podcasts or whatever, that's going to give you 80% of your results. Okay, well then why not just start doing that? Because learning more isn't going to necessarily give you more results right now. Will it in the future? Yes, but that's also when you've leveled up and you're looking for the next thing to improve where you're currently at. But you can't be doing, expert level things at novice level, standards, right? Mm-hmm. You have to grow yourself, and then the knowledge that you start to learn and implement will actually fit the criteria that you need, right?
So less is more.
I mean,
in a sense.
Is that what you tell people?
Never that. It's
hey man, it's all good.
But I feel like I guess, like, going off of with that statement, it's like when you don't have like too much things going on, or like you have like an overload of information or things you're trying to prep for and get, and kind of get ready for. It's like when you have just exactly, or you just have what you need, you can actually maximize that and make more progress with it. You know what I mean? Because you can concentrate on that specific thing, on the things that are like your foundation until you're ready, or until it's time to start broadening out to the next things.
Yeah. I mean, I think it goes into like, there's a power to realizing that perfection isn't the goal, right? Execution is the goal. And when I say that, it's because if you're trying to have the perfect plan, or if you're trying to have the perfect, game plan, essentially, even for your fitness, it's never going to be perfect. There's always going to be obstacles. There's always going to be, things that didn't go according to your plan, whether it's in the day, week, outside influences, family. So realizing that you're never going to have a perfect plan, just take that first step, right? And realize that you have to think of it as a perfect plan is giving all you can every single time you can. That's perfect, right? Because if you can't give any more than all you can, right? So it's like, if I'm giving all my effort, all my attention, all my, if I'm putting all my chips in each and every day on each and every task, then there's no hate in it, right? You might not be as excited with as far as you've come, right? You wish you were a little further. That's natural, right? It's always, it would always be nice to be a little bit further, a little bit, more ahead. At the same time, you have to realize that that's the process. That's why it's rewarding when you do get to that point, because you knew all of the struggle and all of the days that you just were basically walking upstream, and it felt like other people were running, right? So I think it really comes down to you just knowing that it's not going to be perfect. Don't try to make it perfect. Like, beauty is in the imperfections.
Wow. That's deep. Like, I think even just like the word perfect, like, it creates like a false sense of expectation. You know what I mean? It's like waiting for the perfect moment, or creating a perfect standard. It's like, I feel like we're just setting ourselves up, kind of for like a too high of an expectation, when, like, I think a better way to think of it, or to phrase it, is like you said, giving everything that you have in the moment to the to the best of your capabilities, like, and that's all you can ask for. It's not, and I don't want to say the word sufficient, but because the thing is, it may seem perfect to you, but the thing is, when certain aspects change, or you need to change your plan, or because we are human beings, like, we're not perfect, that when you gain like external opinions, or even other knowledge, or other input, or other knowledge, all of a sudden what you thought was perfect, or what you were prepping for to be perfect, is no longer there. And then that's when that false expectation starts to crumble, and then you get all disappointed, and then you start kind of feeling down, and then it's just like more of a negative. I think, to me, it's more of like it hurts you more than it helps you.
Right. I mean, 100%, like, that is true. And I really think that it comes down to, again, with that, simplification, right? And realizing that, let's go to fitness. Like, if you, in the question that you asked me, right, people waiting until the January 1st, and to all of a sudden they're going to make it a 180 in their lifestyle, right? And it's like, you can simplify it now, and simplify this process for you by realizing that if you start on January 1st, your fitness goal out the gate is going to almost seem overwhelming, right? You're trying to implement this and implement that and change this and change that, when in reality, you can do one change now. You can simplify one thing now. And now that becomes a habit. And all of a sudden, now you add the next thing in, and then you simplify that, right? You get used to it. Once it's a habit, it's simple, right? But until it's a habit, it's not simple. It's a whole new thing, right? So realizing, even for like us, for, business, I remember, before we were using some of the softwares that we're using now, it's like, we would write stuff down on pieces of paper, right? And not talking about your fucking 1,000 notes, right? I'm talking about on top of your 1,000 notes, we also had like sheets where it was like, for a lead or for whatever, it was like their name, the number, and all that kind of stuff. And even though that process of writing it down on the piece of paper was simple, the upkeep of knowing who got called when, if that person was, what the result was from that call, that was not a simple process. That was a headache, right? So sometimes the simpler thing to do in the moment is actually more complex in the long run. So realizing when you're looking at your journey in anything long-term view, like, is this something simple that I can continuously do, continuously track, right, without having to think and do all these other things? Like, is it a simplified version, right?
So I think, learning and practicing how to adapt is like, and I definitely agree with that. Patty sent another comment. Shout out Patty. Patty is always engaging, and we love that. She said, I've always told myself not to expect anything, because when we have expectations and we don't get what we get, and when we don't get that, we get disappointed and then lose that hope. Exactly. That I agree 100%. Kind of like what I just touched base on, is that setting up that false expectation. It's like, what is that saying? When don't assume,
right?
Because when you assume, you make an ass out of you and me. And then she also said, you just have to take it day by day, set a small goal, and add to it every time until you have that discipline.
Right.
Dang. All right, Patty's been, that's how you can tell, like, Patty's been around us. She's definitely, and I'm actually really happy, and to be able to know that, like, we're able to share and give that knowledge and to others, and like for them to also be able to kind of apply it and like share that to other people. Why are you laughing?
I was waiting to see what kind of analogy you used.
What?
The analogy choice, I was waiting for it. But that was good. No, definitely. I mean, honestly, like, everything that Patty was saying, you can tell that she's put in the work, but also she's listened to the things that we're saying, because she's a living example. That her life is an example of all those things, right? Her fitness journey from when she started till now, you could just see it when she walks in, right? You should see a picture of her when she first started versus now. It's like, damn, if you just do the things that you're supposed to do and you take it day by day, then the results speak for themselves. It's almost, I heard this term the other day, the invisible reps, right? And what the invisible reps are is essentially the reps that no one else sees, right? The invisible reps are the ones that you're doing by yourself, and you're doing it because you know you need to do them day in and day out. And then the invisible reps done over time, they compound, and then they become visible. The results are visible for everyone else to see, but they don't see everything that you put into it. So it's essentially kind of like the iceberg theory that we've talked about, right? But that's all it is like, you got to realize, if you're doing it for the external praise of, hey, wow, you look so good and stuff like that, cool, but realize that you can't put in those reps, or can't put in the work just to get that praise every single time. And that's what we've talked about. Like, even when I had clients, they would, some clients would get upset because I wouldn't tell them good job every time. Like, you weighed in less than you're supposed, like you weighed in just like you were supposed to. Good job. You did the work that you were supposed to do. Like, I don't get it. It wasn't anything above and beyond, right? And it was like, those are the things where it's like, if you're looking for high fives and pats on the back, right? That's not, that you're looking at the wrong, your purpose is misaligned. You're doing it because you want to do it. You're doing it because your goal is X. So whether someone else aligns with it, gives you praise or not, it doesn't matter, right? We can't tell you how many times when we launched the gym, launched the franchise, there was people telling us not to do it. People that are telling us, oh, wow, that's so amazing. And both of them, in both aspects, didn't phase us, right? And I know that sounds kind of cold, but even when someone gave us like a good job, or damn, we're so proud of you guys, like, that's crazy, it didn't really fuel us just as much as someone telling us that, why are you guys doing that? Because we were still aligned within our goal, and no matter what someone said, good or bad, we were still on just doing our goal. Like, obviously we appreciate everything that was, a compliment and stuff. But at the same time, like, again, some people do it just for the compliment.
Yeah.
That makes sense?
No, it does. And don't get me wrong, like you said, we appreciate like the positive, like, you know, the commendations and stuff like that. I don't know about you, but like to me too, it's like internally, it's like, you know, I reiterate, I appreciate it, but also at the same time, in the back of my head, I'm like, oh boy, like, you know, like the work that it took here, because like that iceberg analogy, it's like most like people don't see what it takes to accomplish something or to get something done. You know what I mean? So only you know the sacrifices and like the actions that it takes to get to where you're at, but more so too to that, you know, the continuous steps that you need to take moving forward, right? So you take that and it's like you appreciate it in the moment, you know, and you could definitely use that as fuel. I know we do, but at the same time, it's like it doesn't alter like our perspective like in a extreme sense. You know what I mean? It's still like kind of like very eyes is still like straightforward. You know what I mean?
Right.
So
I mean, going into Patty said we're good teachers.
then just drop the comment.
Why is Nip 6 weeks out? Just the camera angle.
Your boy's starving.
But I wrote down some action steps though, like to put this whole like Costco syndrome and mindset, you know, into play. So putting it into like actionable steps, right? So that you don't get misaligned with it, right? Step 1 is like audit your current stockpile of knowledge, right? What do you know? What do you need to find out? And then number 2 is set a finish and a start date, right? When do I need to start doing this or implementing certain things? And when is my goal to have at least this one thing done before I do the next research phase, right? Next one is extract the lessons, right? This is something that you already know I love saying, right? Extract the lessons from
We had that in the core values.
Yeah, it's in the core values too. Like extract the lessons, right? Because everything from interactions with people to stuff that you hear on a podcast like this, or that you just learn, you know, on watching TV or watching a movie or whatever, take a lesson away from something. And if you could take one lesson away from an interaction or some form of your day, like you're going to be that much more prepared, right? And sometimes those are the best lessons. And then the next step 4 is declutter and let go, right? Don't be overwhelmed with all the things that you don't know. Don't be overwhelmed with all the things that you think you need to learn. Just focus on, what do I need to get started? What do I need to start doing now? Or what do I need to find out to start doing that? And then that goes into the next point, step 5, which is really focus on one area at a time, right? And realize that even a business plan, right? You know, a fitness plan, everything has stages. So even if you map out your plan, just like, okay, this is stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, even like when we did your contest prep, right? Your contest prep, it was this phase we were in, right? And I told you each phase that when you're hitting it is like, this phase that we're in we're just trying to lose weight, right? We got 12 weeks to break this down. This is going to be one of the more dramatic phases. We're just trying to try to shred weight off.
That shit was all dramatic to me on this side.
But then it was like, you know, then it was like, okay, now let's, you know, the second phase is like, let's start fine tuning, right? Then it was like, okay, now let's start really focusing on, you know, stage presence and all that kind of stuff. Goes into everything, but we didn't focus on stage present when we were losing weight, right? We only focused on losing weight. So that goes into, you know, focus on one area at a time. Even though there are different stages, don't worry about the other stage until you get closer.
Yeah.
Right. And that's when you can set, okay, this week is the week before I'm going to start that stage. I need to figure out this. I'm going to research this. Right? You don't need to know all the stages and all the working parts yet. Right. So then step 6 is, you know, create an accountability system, right? Whether it's a person, whether it's people, right? Create an accountability system to hold you accountable to the things that you do or are planning to do. I've already told you, even for myself, the biggest one that sometimes is like, I'll say stuff and it sounds kind of cocky, like as it's a goal, right? When I told you like I wanted to go, I told the RBO team that I was going to speak on their stage in 5 years, right? Nothing to back it, right? Like we had just opened the gym, no standards to back why I would even be on their stage. But telling that to them, because telling it to you, I know it'd be like, okay, that's part of an accountability system and telling you those things, but telling it to them where they were the person that I was going to be on their stage, it was like, oh shit, well, now if I don't, we either got to quit the group or figure it out.
Now we got to move.
Yeah, but then step 7 is really reflect on the process. Reflect on it daily, weekly, monthly, whatever your system aligns for, right? And then step 8/7.5 is like set realistic expectations, right? If you're doing a weight loss goal, setting an 8-pound a month weight loss isn't really realistic. Is it doable? Maybe for some, but it's not for everyone, right? So set realistic goals to where you currently are and then adapt as needed, right? If you're setting unrealistic goals, as in you're selling yourself too short also, I want you to realize there's that side of the coin, right? You can lose more than a pound a month, I promise. So if you're like, I just want to lose 1 pound a month, it's like, do you want to, or are you just saying that because you know it's easy to hit, right? Set something that is a goal where you actually have to strive for that goal, and you're not just hitting it every day. I used to have clients that would have those Apple Watches. I know you love your Apple Watch, right? But they'd be like, oh, I hit all my move things or whatever, the little rings, right? And I'm like, it's fucking 2 p.m. Like, what do you mean? I was like, how often do you hit this around this time? Well, every day. I was like, that shit's not a goal. That's just your what you hit by 2 p.m. I was like, what is your total? What's your average total? They say it. I was like, okay, set it like 100 higher than that. Now you have a goal, right? If you can hit it every single time, that's not a goal anymore. That's just your life, And then step 9 is, leverage tools and really stay organized with it, right? Leverage tools / people. Ask for help, right? Look up, what systems or softwares, depending on, again, your goal, what you can use, for here, like tracking your macros. You could do that shit on paper, or you can use like the Strive 11 meal plan app. A lot easier, right? So leverage those things. And then going into what Patty said for step 10 too, is celebrate the small wins, right? Those small wins are what's going to fuel you on the days that you don't feel like doing it, right? And that's where I was kind of going with when people gave us compliments or gave us negative feedback. It didn't really matter because we were celebrating our own small wins, and that was our true fuel. And yes, the compliments and everything were felt nice and it's cool to get, but sometimes it's like you might be hitting an obstacle and someone gave you the compliment, and you're like, if they only knew, kind of thing, right? But that's not what it needs to be about. Celebrate your small wins that you've set, that once you hit them, that's what keeps you going, because now your subconscious knows you want more of those.
Yeah.
Right. But it doesn't mean if you're on a fitness journey and or fitness thing and it's like, okay, I'm going to celebrate my small win by kind of going backwards on my journey.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Shout out my boy, Denny. My boy, appreciate you, Denny. Wish you tuned in every week. But he said those small wins go over our head at times. That's a huge one. This is great stuff. Appreciate it. Definitely, like appreciating and using the wins we have along the way is important to kind of keep yourself aligned, especially when you're at those low points or sometimes you're hitting a wall. But where you left off, the last thing that you said, who said it? Kobe. Job's not finished.
Yeah.
It's kind of like it's like having that balance of, yes, appreciate, don't hate, appreciate, you know what I mean? But don't forget, aside from the small wins, that you still have the road in front of you.
Right.
You know what I mean? That you can't get to the top of one mountain, that you're currently climbing, and then you just stop there. You got to pick your head up. You got to look up, because there's more room to climb.
Right.
You know what I mean? Just naming, I'm about to just drop fucking quote after quote. The hungry, like the hungriest wolf. You know what I mean? It's like there's more things to be done, and there's more progress that needs to be made. You know what I mean? So using where you've come so far to keep propelling you forward is essential. But not allowing that to keep you complacent and comfortable. Because comfort is like the biggest killer of like progress or success.
Right. And then Deco did, mention a little earlier too, I just saw this one, is he was talking about, allocating resources, time, money, and energy where they'll have to matter most or impact most. And that is, definitely true as well. Right. In any goal, you're going to have to develop a new sense of life balance. And I bring that up because a lot of people are so overwhelmed with, thinking that their life has to be balanced, and balanced means a certain thing. When in reality, your balance and my balance are different, right? Your life balance between family, work, friends, all that kind of stuff is different than mine. And that's okay. But you have to find what works for you, and and that's your balance. It's not a seesaw of life. I'm giving 50% here, so I need to give 50% here. No, that shit is, it's a pie. It's literally, you have different cuts. It's always going to be a circle, right? But how much are you giving to each slice? And as long as that's working for you, then by all means, right? So allocating your time, most importantly, and then also the money. If your goal is to lose weight and you're telling yourself you can't pay for a gym membership, let's say, what else are you spending your money on? Are you going out every weekend? Are you currently smoking, right? If you factor in all those things, it's like, okay, well, look, we can reallocate this money that you're going towards a negative habit towards your goal and add it towards a positive, right? So again, finding out, and really recapping and assessing your current life so that it can fit the parameters of the life that you want. And it doesn't need to happen by copy and paste. It can literally be a slow, gradual migration over to the life that you want, right? You're moving one slice of the pie over here. Okay, perfect. You're starting to build it, right? Or we'll go into the brick analogy, right? You're taking one brick from your current lifestyle and putting it into your new lifestyle. And then you're going to take another one later and put another, and you start building it up. And all of a sudden you've moved your entire wall to the other side, right? So it's piece by piece, day by day, right?
No, I definitely agree with that. And I think, I think that's what holds back a lot of people, as far as making, when they want something, you know what I mean? Whether it's health or fitness related, or even financial, or whatever situation you're trying to change, career move, whatever. It's not, it goes with that overwhelming yourself with not only the knowledge, but trying to do many things, allocating in the right places where it's necessary, but also at a gradual, strategic way. You know what I mean? Not trying to do everything at one time, because then when you're trying to do too much, you're actually doing nothing. You know what I mean? Because it's when you're doing too many tasks at one time or trying to finish, you know what I mean? It's but how much progress did you actually make in any of them that's actually going to make a significant difference in your life, right, towards the life that you want? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
no, but I mean, with that being said, guys, we hope this kind of give you a little bit different insight. We wanted to come up with a funnier terminology with it, and that's where that whole Costco syndrome came from. Because I mean, honestly, that's one of the things that we hear in the gym the most, and even that, on the business side too, dealing with other entrepreneurs and stuff as well, is there's so much information out there that you get overwhelmed, and then you'd never take action on any of it, or you are always in this lifelong research phase, and it's you're just a bystander. You're not in research phase. You're just watching other people live the life that you want, and just watching it, right? So those action steps, again, right, really going into what you need to do if you want to make sure that you're not, if you feel like if you've been in a research phase all 2024 for what you said you were going to accomplish this year, moving into next year, you can start doing it now. But by step 1, audit your current stockpile of knowledge. Step 2, set a start date, set an end date. Step 3, going into extract the key lessons, take a lesson from everything in your day. Step 4, declutter and let go. Step 5, focus on one area at a time. Step 6, accountability team. 7, reflect on your progress, right? Daily, weekly, monthly, whatever it needs to be for you. Step 8, set realistic expectations. Step 9, leverage tools, leverage people, right? And leverage sounds bad, but it's not in a way you're taking advantage of, but use the knowledge that someone else has, right? You can give them knowledge in return to help them on their journey, right? That's what goes further than an accountability system. But step 10, celebrate the small wins, right? And then with that being said, make sure you guys share this episode with a friend, leave us that 5-star review. And like always, guys, for the live events, make sure that you guys tell people that, we go live on Fridays at 8 so that they can tune in as well. Because maybe they have a question or they want, something answered in terms of personal development, entrepreneurship, or whatever. And we want to make sure that, we're able to help them. This is the only reason why we do the lives. Otherwise, we would just do the pre-recordeds. It is so much easier for us to do pre-recordeds, I'll tell you, technology-wise, as well as, we could do it at any given hour. But we want to make sure that you guys get the most out of this, and that the Mindset Cafe podcast goes beyond just listening to recorded stuff, but it actually can engage with you guys and really answer questions that you have currently happening in your life, right? So with that being said, guys, you already know, we appreciate you. We love you. And we'll see you guys on the next one.
Negative vibes, only positive thoughts. Just in the game of life, mindset causes shots. Got my mind on the prize, I can't be distracted. I stay on my grind, no time to be slacking. I hustle hard, I go against